Indiana Jones. It's a podcast about Indiana Jones. Every movie, 1 minute at a time. Indiana Jones Minute.
Welcome back to the Indiana Jones Minute, the podcast in which we reach right into the heart of Indiana Jones and the Temple of Doom, 1 minute at a time. I'm Tom Taylor.
I'm Pete, 3 Aces Mummert.
I'm the intern, Jerry Porter.
And I'm John Brueggen from the St. Augustine Alligator Farm.
John, welcome.
Thank
We
you.
remember you.
It's good not to be forgotten.
We haven't seen you since the Well of Souls.
Yeah, it helped us navigate all those snakes, and it was fun because we got to actually say herpetologist and not feel guilty.
Right.
But now I can't see a snake without thinking that it's a legless lizard.
Yeah.
Well, yeah.
All snakes
And
are
we
liars
got a couple of minutes here with like a giant legless lizard at the end, so I mean, no spoiler alerts, please.
All right. Well, let's get into it then. We're here for minute 33 of Temple of Doom. And minute 33 begins with Short Round beating Indy's 2 6s with 3 aces and ends with Indy discovering an ace up Shorty's sleeve. Back a while ago, we were in the shaman's hut, and I was saying that this was like the first scene that I always think of when there was something kind of tense and interesting going on that was almost destroyed by Willie just kind of being a goof in the background. Mm-hmm. And now here we have a really light, fun scene that's almost ruined by Willie being a goof running around in the background. And it's very frustrating to me because I really like this scene with Indy and Shorty. I like their stuff going on here. And then she's just kind of going bananas in the background. And it's frustrating.
This is a tough. This whole sequence is a little tough on the heart and soul. Is it because I agree with you? It's a great game that they're playing, and Willie's going bananas, and it's kind. I mean, is she actually really fearful?
Well, she wasn't afraid of the bats a minute ago.
Yeah, she was sort of spooked by him or weirded out by him.
Yeah, kind of, ooh, giant vampire bats, eh? But yeah, she didn't act this freaked out. The actress really did have a problem with the animals, Kate. There was a whole scene about Kate and a boa constrictor that she tried to psych herself up for. She'd go in every day and meet the snake and the snake handler and try to touch it, and she just melted every time. And at some point, Spielberg went with her and said, no, we're going to work through this, and realized that she was really in severe terror, and he cut the entire scene. And when they were on the flight back from Sri Lanka to London, they wrote this scene we're about ready to do.
Okay.
Oh, okay. Oh, so it was supposed to be in this scene, or was it like in place of the scene or something?
I don't know. That doesn't. The information I had didn't really explain where the boa constrictor would be. Yeah. Not that there's no boa constrictors in India, so it wouldn't fit very well anyway. But we're going to be disappointed. Yeah, we're going to be disappointed in this whole scene if we keep worrying about that.
I feel like we're all on the high dive at the public pool, like kind of looking down, a little bit afraid to jump into this sequence, and kind of like, well, you go, no, you go, and you kind of keep looking down, like, I don't know if I want to do this, but I'm gonna jump. I'm jumping. Here I go.
Go for it.
I don't understand how the bat works here. Like, is he helping her dry her clothes? Did she think he was a garment instead of a varmint?
It's like the Flintstones. He's
it's
the clothespin.
Yeah.
Like, what is I watched this maybe 40 times in a row, and she's like hanging her clothes, and then she reaches down, I guess, to pick up another garment, and she picks up a varmint.
Who was apparently just standing there with his arms upraised, like waiting to be picked up.
Right.
Exactly.
I love you.
Well, that's why it begins so hard here is, no self-respecting fruit bat is going to be standing on the ground waiting for somebody to grab.
Can a fruit bat even stand upright, or do they always hang upside down?
Well, they don't always hang upside down. They do crawl, but I've never seen one stand upright. They'd have to actually have a limb or something to put their front hooks on.
Yeah.
They don't really have hands. They just have hooks on the end of their wings, or in the center of their wings that they really use. So, no, it begins in a ridiculous fashion. That's for sure.
And Are you my mother?
Well, I feel like there's the first belly flop.
Yes.
Yeah.
And off the high dive. But why? And maybe you can explain this, John. Why is he alone? I mean, don't
Okay.
bats whatever do their laundry ensemble or in big groups?
I've seen these bats. I've seen these fruit bats in Africa, and I've seen them in Australia, and I've seen them in India, and they are never alone. They right at dusk they start flying, and I kind of thought when in that scene where they see them flying over while they're walking with the elephants a few minutes ago, that they probably threw that into the scene because while they were filming in Sri Lanka, the bats were flying over, and it just made a neat part of the story. They're there, and they're creepy, and they're big, and Indy calls them a vampire bat, and that we all kind of know is wrong. Jerry was right a few minutes ago. They're New World species, and we're in the Old World here, so they're not a true vampire bat. True vampire bats don't get over 7 inches long. They're tiny little things. But these things have this giant wingspan, but their scientific name, the species name, is Vampirus. And it's possible that even in the 1930s, Indy would have believed that they were vampire bats because of the name. And when they were named, they were named by Linnaeus in like 1758. And so he didn't know the difference either. Linnaeus did a lot of his animal namings just because somebody sent him a dead animal. And so these fruit bats have big fangs that are intimidating. And so, your first guess is, oh, that thing clearly is killing people, It's not unreasonable for even scientists like Indy to have called them vampire bats at the time.
I wonder if he was actually doing that on purpose to freak out Willie or something.
With
a vampire bat.
Yeah.
Any chance you get, sure.
Well, then right after she picks up the bat, and shrieks, there's a really funny, it's almost like someone making a monster noise off camera. He's like,
I heard that. I heard that.
Yeah, there's quite a few noises in here that don't add up. Right at the beginning, there's a kind of a neat little owl sound, and then some sort of toad in the background. But then it's almost as though even a couple of the elephant noises, I feel like somebody's just making noises through a straw, trying to get sound effects. And the elephants make a lot of crazy noises. I was looking at the minute before this, which is minute 32, where Willie gets thrown off the elephant, and that sound of the elephant makes right before she hits the water is the T-Rex sound from Jurassic Park. It's clear that they used a lot of elephant noises to make up this T-Rex, and so I can't watch the scene without thinking she just leapt off the back of a T-Rex.
I just can't watch the scene.
Yeah, well, more power to you.
Cut it right there.
No. Yeah. Well, actually, Willie does let out this blood-curdling scream, and, neither Indy nor Shorty give a bat's ass. And I did ask the question, is she generally afraid here? Because if you listen to the scream, I don't care. And listen, it's no secret, I'm not the biggest fan of Willie, but if I heard that scream, I still would kind of leap up and be like, at least give one of those Indy, Jesus! And see what's going on, and just she actually really sounds like she's in horrible danger.
Yeah, but Indy sort of knows that she's not in danger, and that she's just being a spaz, and he's like, ugh. Like it's not rattling him because he's probably been expecting this, and he's kind of been experiencing it for a few hours now.
Yeah.
Yeah, every bug, everything.
Yeah.
We were just on a trip in Costa Rica, and we had 40 college students there to help us clean up after a hurricane. We're just trying to help some folks out, and I would just listen for the screams. I knew every scream was going to be something interesting, and they weren't all blood curdling like this. But I saw a tarantula, I saw a scorpion, I saw the biggest beetle I've ever seen in my life. I saw a couple different lizards, all because I just followed the screams.
Oh, perfect. That's scientific.
It's a great trick.
Go ahead, Pete.
Kate Capshaw notoriously said she couldn't scream before this role, and Spielberg intentionally put in scream after scream because he thought it was funny, like she was trying to learn how to scream. And I have to say, I mean, she nailed it. Like she
does scream well.
Definitely, she learned.
Yeah.
What's frustrating about this whole thing with the screaming and the bats and everything, like we were talking, minutes and minutes ago about like Shorty's and Indy's story, like their origin story, like how they met and stuff, and I was like, wait, really? That's in the movie? And I miss it completely because it's like you can't not pay attention to it because of all the stuff that Willie's doing.
But we get some crazy information about this. So we were talking about, like, we were wondering how they met, when they met, and so Indy Willie asks Indy, "Where'd you find your little bodyguard?" And he says his parents were killed in the Japanese bombing. And that was 1932. So, and he says he's been living on his streets on his own since he was 4. Or he was 4 in 1932. Now it's 1935. So he's either got to be 7 or 8 years old.
Okay. I buy that.
No. What? That's crazy. Shorty is not 7 or 8 years old.
What, do you think he's older or younger?
No, he's not 3. No, I mean he's like 10 or 11 or 12.
I live with a 9-year-old, and I could buy that kid in the movie as like an 8 or 9-year-old.
That's some professional comment there.
I mean, come on, I'm no herpetologist, but I know a 9-year-old.
Now think later when he's actually performing the martial arts.
Yeah.
Could a 7-year-old or an 8-year-old do that and actually have any impact at all?
He's been living on the streets.
Yeah, which means
the streets have aged him.
He's malnourished from living on the streets,
he's tough,
so
he's wily. He's aged beyond his years.
Grisly.
He's at least a purple belt in Taekwondo.
Indy actually asked he says the worst thing about her is the noise.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And I was wondering, is that the worst thing about Willie?
No, it's not.
Okay.
That's actually a really good question. What is the worst thing about? And again, I don't. There are times when I do like Willie. I have to keep saying this. You go ahead.
Oh, I might actually agree with that. That might be the worst thing about it, because I kind of like Willie, but I think that's the part that's hard to watch, is all the shrieking and screaming. Yeah,
but then I'm still thinking about it in the shaman's hut. Like, we crashed. Like she just kind of interjects stuff. Like that's. I mean, okay, yeah, I think it's probably true that most of the time when she's interjecting and being annoying, it's very, very loud. So, maybe you're right. Maybe it is the worst thing about it.
Well, it's a good. I mean, John, do you want to weigh in here? How do you feel about that comment?
Well, I think it is one of the worst things about her, and it's. I mean, he's rolling his eyes about the noise, but it's the bouncing around camp when everybody else is settled. Everybody else doesn't care that there's a monkey in camp, and she's screaming her full head off.
Yeah, the monkey was not doing a thing, by the way. He's just like, oh, geez, forget it. I'm sorry.
That poor baboon. He looks so scared.
Yeah.
I rewound and watched that at least 40 times, like, because he's sitting there kind of with his arm on the log, like he's just hanging out, and he looks up and sees her, and he shrieks, like he's like, "Oh my god!" It's one of the funniest.
Excuse me, ma'am, I speak bat. You don't have to worry about it. Oh, geez, forget it. Oh my god.
Yeah, that's a young baboon. That's a young baboon that's probably actually only found in Egypt. Shouldn't have been in India. And actually, if I'm right about the species, it's a Hamadryas baboon, which is also known as a sacred baboon, which is represented in Egypt by the god of Thoth, which is a whole lot, which is pretty similar to Tote, if we just remove an H.
Nice.
That was terrific.
That was
Yeah,
pretty
that's
good.
That was really good. Well, I think with regarding that comment, Tom, you said, is that the worst thing about Willie? And I think, at least for this scene, you touched on something. In this scene, maybe the worst thing about her is just the distraction.
Yeah, that's this is one of, like, we've already seen two, and there's at least one more where it's like, hey, there's something interesting going on here. Could you please just take it somewhere else?
So
Could
I
you
know,
just
like,
settle down.
like Spielberg and Lucas somewhat intentionally made this movie really dark and somewhat unintentionally made this movie really dark, but they were both at least somewhat cognizant of the fact that it was really dark, and so they intentionally went in and put some what they called lighthearted moments in it to kind of offset some of the darkness. And I think that's what you see in these scenes, is they're trying to balance some of the stuff that they know is like super, like kids being enslaved, and so they try to put some balance in there, and I think that this is kind of where they ended up.
Yeah.
You're right. That's what it seems like the scene is supposed to be, with, like, the bat and all that stuff.
And there are a lot, it's like, oh, the guy gets hit in the head with a hammer, or they toss a lot of that in here, just I think to try to offset the fact that this is really kind of a dark movie.
Right.
Yeah, just like Home Alone, that whole darkness of some kid being left at home.
Yeah.
Dream come true.
Which by the way, has a great rated reference in it.
Yes, it does.
When Joe Pesci's coming up and he puts his hand on the heated door handle, or on the doorknob,
Oh,
and then
yeah.
it burns the thing into his hand, and he runs and sticks it in the snow, and they play like a little version of the Ark theme in the background. It's amazing.
Oh my God, that's incredible.
Well, do you guys think that there's actually something maybe almost slightly domestic about this scene?
A little. I mean, like
maybe
definitely with
they're
Indy and Shorty, sure.
Yeah,
Well,
and maybe
she's doing the laundry.
Yeah.
Sure.
I mean they're
Yeah.
together, like, around the hearth.
Yeah.
Yeah, and maybe it's almost like setting up, I don't know what, maybe the ending of the movie, or what would happen were they to live happily ever after. Maybe it's almost like a scene like that.
This is like the Indy sitcom.
Well, I'll say this. A few minutes ago, I proposed the question, what does Indy like better? Booty or booty? Women or treasure? And Pete, I think you'll like this. If you look at his poker hand in this minute, it's hearts and diamonds.
Oh,
Yeah. And in the middle,
no accident.
in the middle of the hearts and the diamonds is a spade. And I thought, okay, thank you, Tommy. Something used for digging in a mine.
He's got the 3 of picks. He's got the 4 of pulleys.
So we got hearts and diamonds, and in the middle a spade. And then the overarching theme of the entire game here is cheating.
Yeah. I gotta say that we and back in Cairo again at Salah's house, we were talking about, like, Indy being maybe at his most handsome. We get a very handsome version of Indiana Jones in this scene with his. I don't think we've seen this before, with his hat back on his head, and he's got the little, like, locks of hair coming down across his forehead, and he's very relaxed and very cool and very charming. I'm very taken with Indiana Jones right here.
Yeah.
We also get a really adorable short round, like when he's sitting there and you see him slowly counting the cards in Indy's hand.
Yeah.
And just like it's slowly dawning on him that he's cheating. And then just his expression on his face is absolutely hilarious.
Yeah, short round, yeah, I like Shorty. I like
I do
short
too.
round.
Yeah.
I like him in theory, and I like him in practice most of the time. He's good.
Although, as Chris LaSalle was saying, it's hard sometimes to see Shorty and not think of Data from the Goonies. And
See, a
this
lot
scene
of
where
people
he's
say that.
got stuff up his sleeve, definitely, that's a Data moment.
I love the Goonies when I was a kid, and I saw it a ton of times, but I don't remember it well enough to mix them up like that. I don't know. And when you say Data, of course, I think of Star Trek, so you lost me.
Well, I just want to go camping with Indy because that's one heck of a camping spot. My wife and I go camping. We set up the camp. We wait for it to get dark, and then we go out with a flashlight to see what kind of animals are there. And we've never experienced this. There's an owl, a bat, a baboon. There's a lizard coming up here at the end of this minute. It's just it's what we dream about.
Yeah.
So what is that lizard? Like, I like that even he makes a scared sound.
Yeah, I think that's a person in a microphone as well. But that lizard is cool. It's a little monitor called a Dumerals monitor. And they're found only in Burma, which is part of Thailand. And that's a young animal. That one's colored real nice. It's kind of got some banding in it. And as they get older, they lose some of that color. But they only get about 4 feet long.
Huh.
Wait, is this the guy on the ground?
No, the one up on the log.
Yeah.
He's
up
on
on the
a
log. Okay,
branch.
never mind. Okay.
Yeah.
That's cool.
Yeah, and it's kind of neat that they have that. There's not a lot of even zoos that are working with that species, but when they were filming that piece, they were in London on the soundstage, so it would have been a captive animal from somebody in California probably, or over in Europe, I guess.
Huh.
I like Indy's. It's a mistake. Sounds exactly like me getting frustrated with my 9-year-old son who looks just like Short Round. He it's like, God, you asked me for grape jelly and I got it. It's a mistake. You asked for it.
I think that's a great line Shorty has where he says, "I'm very little, you cheat very big." I love that.
See, Shorty's good, and he's filled with glee that there was an ace in his sleeve and that Indy found it.
Oh, I
He
love
could not be happier.
He just beams. Yeah, he's so proud of the fact.
Yeah,
It's a great scene between the two of them. It really is.
Yeah,
maybe because he wasn't. I mean, he was sort of an actor, but he didn't, and he also was not solid on English. Maybe I wonder if that lends itself to some of the realistic, honest kid moments that he has, because he has a lot of them. He doesn't seem very much like a Hollywood hair parted and moosed kid from a sitcom. No. He's like a real kid.
he talked about how he didn't know who any of these people were in the movie. Like, he didn't know who Harrison Ford was because he'd never seen him in a movie before. So I think he had he wasn't intimidated by him like a lot of kids would have been.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's right. He said he'd never seen Star Wars or Jaws or any of that, so he went into it and there was no starstruckness, so he just did his job.
Yeah.
It works.
Yeah. Yeah, I think it works really well.
Was there anything else for minute 33?
Oh, wait. This just in from Professor Christy Porter.
Oh, thank you.
What's that monkey doing up? It's their only note for the scene.
Well, what's it doing in India is a whole other question. So.
He's got to train back to Egypt in the morning. He should be sleeping.
Yeah, you got a layover.
Yeah. Back to bed, you.
Maybe the monkey's Shiva's backup plan. He's like, well, if Indy doesn't work out, maybe this guy will help.
Yeah.
Maybe that's who was in the plane that crashed that looked like the shooting star.
Oh, yeah.
Oh,
yeah,
maybe.
he was in the other plane. Yeah.
Yeah, there you go.
Comes from the monkey planet. Well, all right. Good job with 33, everybody. John, where can people find you if they want to find out more about lizards and elephants and bats and creatures of all stripes?
I run a zoo called the St. Augustine Alligator Farm and Zoological Park, and you can find out all the details at alligatorfarm.com.
Beautiful. Cool. And you can find out about us at indianajonesminute.com, where you can find our old episodes and you can find our exhaustive research into the reality that this is just a dream of Han Solo, all this Indiana Jones business. And you can also find us on iTunes. Leave us a nice review. We appreciate it. It makes the machine think that we're worth mentioning. That's always good for all of us. And please come back here tomorrow for minute 34 of Temple of Doom here on the Indiana Jones Minute.
I knew. I was right. I was right about the vampire bat thing.
I'm proud of you, Jerry.
Oh yeah, I actually did something.
You applied yourself. See what happens?
You're gonna lose your intern status if you're not careful.
Yeah, really? You're gonna start
I'm
paying
gonna
you.
lose it. I'm gonna be out of a job.